creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Yacht wired up with cameras. Trump later bought that yacht, which is super interesting.
Whoa.
Do you know about that?
No.
So Trump, check this out. And I'm not claiming that Trump is in on everything. It's a very complex thing here, but Trump's history is pretty weird. He bought the Plaza Hotel, which is where the Blue Suite parties that blackmailed J. Edgar Hoover happened. You remember? Do you know about those?
No. What year was that?
Oh, dude. So J. Edgar Hoover, the founder of the FBI. This is where I thought I was starting this fucking job to talk about GameStop and to talk about like the financial markets and shit. And then I realized how important intelligence agencies and organized crime are to how the world works. And I just got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into like,
I don't want to
what's the
miss out on
history?
some of the Epstein stuff.
Oh, we got.
Should we come back to that?
Well, we'll get there. This is all connected.
Oh, it's all connected. Okay.
I could talk about the Epstein stuff for fucking days and start all kinds of trouble for your podcast and shit. But,
Well, I think that trouble's supposed to be coming out publicly.
I don't think it's gonna.
Wasn't there? So the
It's not gonna
FBI
come
in New
out.
York guy had to step down, right?
Yeah.
They were.
I watched the whole thing. Joe Rogan cut him off to distract from the yacht and hotel story, and it never gets finished. They never go back to it.
What?
It's interesting. Who did you learn that has the most power behind closed doors that everybody fears, that no one knows about? Who had the most power?
There were three of them. Other than Jill Biden, that was a given, right? Jill Biden, the wife, she has tremendous power.
Really?
Yeah, she was a president essentially for the past 4 years.
What?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm actually convinced that if it weren't for Jill, Biden would have not run for re-election. Jill and Hunter were the two people who kept him in the race because he was worried about his son's freedom, his only remaining son, and Jill didn't want to relinquish power. She was Lady McBiden, as they say. Kamala Harris, they hated her.
Pre her running?
Oh,
while she was
absolutely.
VP?
Do you remember in the first couple of years of the term, her office was constantly undergoing turmoil?
Right.
It was just, there was so much drama. People were leaving in droves. There was so much turnover. Anita Dunn and crew, they didn't think highly of Harris. She couldn't run her own office.
So Jill Biden was the first woman president?
America has a new gun, and it's one that uses facial recognition and fingerprint scanners. It's called the BioFire Smart Gun. It's the first to actually hit the market, and it's more controversial than you think. You see, to try and push for more firearm safety, this gun only works when its registered owner scans their face or their fingerprint, and the gun locks and becomes unusable as soon as it leaves their hand. It's also trickier to build one of these than you think, because it's not just a gun with a fingerprint scanner slapped on the top. It's actually the first gun ever to not rely on a physical trigger mechanism, but rather it sends an electrical signal to fire the bullet, and it can only get that signal if it's in the owner's hands. But also because of that, it's roughly twice the price at $1,500. Gun control advocates think it's a great idea, saying at least it can't be used in the wrong hands like a child or a criminal. But some firearm enthusiasts, not so keen. They fear that this technology could malfunction when you need it the most, or could be used as a slippery slope for more gun control laws over time. The question is, what do you guys think? Is this the gun that America needs, or not?
Battery dies when you need it most. AI.
If you didn't know, there's certain videos circulating around on TikTok talking about elites eating mermaids,
Yep.
and I just want to make this very clear, okay? Mermaids do in fact exist. First of all, you have to understand that certain elites, let's just say, aren't like us underneath their, let's just say costume. But aside from that, if you have the balls and confidence and a team that just so happens to have some soundproof equipment, as dumb as that may sound, you can actually hunt them in some areas of the ocean. The only reason that you don't know about shit like this is because you don't explore areas of the internet outside of just Googling shit, okay? There's certain groups on Telegram, especially on the dark web, and I'm so serious right now, with fishermen that come from certain coastlines, and this can range anywhere from California all the way to Australia. They're literally all over the world. And they'll talk about not only catching them, but post their weight, their size, their length, their colored hair. I mean, there's a lot of shit that goes into this. They even post pictures. They've even posted them on TikTok, but people don't believe that they're real most of the time. And announce out in the open, sometimes announcing that they're actually hunted down by the FBI, CIA, whatever it may be, that they deliver them to people that have a shit ton of fucking money. There's actually some hot spots in the United States. For example, if you go to the very end of Virginia Beach around 3 to 4 a.m., which I still hear stories on a monthly basis of people being taken out into the ocean by them. But regardless, you might see some sketchy ass looking people. Just know that there's a lot of aspects of this reality, including mermaids and cryptids even, that exist, but you just don't know about them. And many of you aren't aware of them simply because your mind isn't open to them actually existing. And you might call me crazy, that's completely fine. There's thousands of other people that know this information as well. I've even had personal experiences with cryptids. I even recorded them on camera a couple years ago. The lot that was across from my house, I actually caught what looked to be a djinn, or in quotation, the Hat Man that was following me. I've caught the Fae on camera. I have these videos like long down in my TikTok. I'm pretty sure I have a playlist of them. But I mean, even in Colorado, I've had some skinwalker experiences. I've had a Wendigo experience that was the most terrifying fucking day of my entire life. If you go out to look for it, you will end up eventually fucking finding it. I'm just being completely honest with you right now. You can even ask the natives up in Colorado. They will tell you some crazy ass shit. But as for mermaids, I can tell you where to look and what time to do it.
Go look up mermaids in Zimbabwe Dam. What? The Big Apple. This guy has great content for those who understand it, but I think he's playing with fire.
How the outer space dark, but the sun up there?
I love this question. This is such a good question.
Somebody lying.
Oh, if our sun is so close to us, why isn't the entire solar system lit up? Well, what should it light up? Like, what is it making bright? Light itself is traveling in the form of something called a photon. Now, photons themselves aren't actually bright. The light you see is from when photons hit things, and it gets a little bit complicated in terms of that energy getting reflected and absorbed and released, but what's important is that what you're seeing is the collision between photons and stuff, and that is getting reflected to your eye or a camera. So on Earth, sunlight, photons emitted from the sun, hits our atmosphere, which scatters all of that light and reflects it, and it interacts with the air and all of the stuff around us, so everything's bright. But space is a nearly perfect vacuum, the vacuum of space. So what that means is that most of the stuff in space is in planets and moons and asteroids, and between those things, there's not really stuff. There's no particles, not even air, to reflect that light. But those objects that sunlight can and does hit are bright because they're colliding with the photons, and that's why planets and moons are bright. They're colliding with the photons. It's also why spacecraft traveling through space are bright. So we're just so lucky to have an atmosphere that these photons are hitting and bouncing off of and scattering and reflecting light underneath it. Because if we lived somewhere that didn't really have an atmosphere, like the moon, there would be no bright sky. The only things that would be bright are the stuff that sunlight's hitting, like the people and the surface. But then it's just darkness.
Okay, please explain why it's hot here and not in space.
People in the Middle Ages slept twice a night. Instead of sleeping through the night like we do today, people in the Middle Ages slept in two phases, what we'd call biphasic or segmented sleep. They'd hit the sack very early, since the night was generally very dangerous, and would sleep for a few hours. Then, they'd usually wake up between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. to engage in what they called the watch. Typically, the peasants used that time to check on their animals, while religious folk spent it in prayer, and even criminals took advantage of the darkness for their misdeeds. After their activities, they'd go back to sleep for what was known as the second sleep. Since most people couldn't afford their own beds, many ended up sleeping together, accompanied by family, friends, and even servants. And for couples who managed a bit more privacy, the watch was the perfect excuse for a bit of cheeky lovemaking, if you know what I mean.
I sleep in 5 stages. What is cheeky lovemaking?
You notice something kind of off about this mannequin? This is La Pascualita. The mannequin has stood in the window of a Mexican bridal shop since the 1930s. But when she was first placed there, customers noticed something kind of strange. The details on this mannequin was unusual, with eyebrow hair and even veins. But that suspicion soon grew to horror as people started to notice she looked oddly similar to the owner's deceased daughter. I just pooped my pants because this is where the story gets crazy. The owner of the shop had a daughter named Pascuala, who was actually said to be married in the 1930s but ended up passing away in a tragedy before the wedding. Shortly after, the mannequin appeared in the window. Legend has it the owner preserved the remains of her daughter by dipping her in wax. But the most compelling evidence has always been the hands. If you looked closely, the hands had wrinkles and even lifelike fingernails. Could this really be the shop owner's daughter?
That's creepy.
How terrifying were the ancient mosquitoes? Even dinosaurs could be drained of their blood. The duck-billed dinosaurs before us are on the brink of collapse. Hundreds of billions of mosquitoes have gathered in this region, frenziedly feasting on the blood of every creature around. While adult dinosaurs aren't in mortal danger from these pests, the constant attacks have left them dangerously weakened. It's a different story for the newborns. With their delicate skin, the mosquitoes target these helpless infants most viciously. Within minutes, the tiny creatures collapse to the ground from blood loss. The herd's leader is rallying the group to escape when one baby dinosaur tries to follow. Its tiny body has no strength left to move, only feeble struggles as it lies helplessly. The mother notices her struggling offspring, but knows moving a dying hatchling would doom both. With heavy heart, she turns away, leaving some surviving youngsters to join the migration toward the mountaintop. Finally, the wind sweeping the peaks drives away the bloodthirsty swarm. This volcanic valley serves as a natural incubator. Its warm sands allow dinosaur eggs to hatch in just 2 weeks. The lush vegetation below provides abundant food, especially during summer when plant growth surges rapidly to sustain the entire herd. These duck-billed dinosaurs grow amazingly fast, reaching half their adult size within months. But summer's warmth brings another threat. Mosquitoes thrive in this tropical environment. Their populations explode under ideal breeding conditions, creating the nightmare scenario we've witnessed. While many hatchlings fall victim to these winged predators, those that survive this first crisis will go on to adulthood. If you traveled back 50 million years to what is now the United States, you'd encounter a peculiar creature. With a face packed with tightly arranged features, a thick beard-like tuft under its chin, and a Y-shaped horn resembling a slingshot on its head, this is Megacerops, also known as the giant rhinoceros. Standing over 2.5 meters tall and weighing up to 4 tons, this massive mammal was built for endurance, capable of traveling long distances in search of food. Fossils of Megacerops have been found across much of North America, a testament to its widespread presence. Its unique physiology allowed it to store nutrients, much like a camel, to survive harsh conditions. However, this particular Megacerops isn't in high spirits. It's struggling to find a mate. Just then, a pair of Megacerops passes by, a male closely guarding a female, growling to warn off the lone male. Realizing the rival is much larger, the lone male lowers its head in submission, but luck is on its side. Nearby, a single female appears, her graceful movements captivating the young male. Without hesitation, it approaches to court her. Suddenly, another male charges in, clearly interested in the same female. A fight breaks out, but this time, the two are evenly matched in size. The young male refuses to back down. Megacerops typically fight using their massive horns, brute strength, and years of combat experience. Unfortunately, the young male is inexperienced and is quickly knocked to the ground. Defeated, it retreats. The Megacerops family once dominated the North American plains around 40 million years ago. However, by about 4 million years ago, these colossal mammals had gone extinct, leaving behind only their fossils as a reminder of their once mighty reign.
Thank you to the cameraman who went back and recorded this.
Is the most dangerous information that you know?
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you what I told the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency in his office.
One and the same.
Patrick Hughes.
Me and that guy.
Pretend that you're him.
Okay.
The first question he asked me was, "We don't understand why you haven't committed suicide yet," to me. And I said, well, because I don't need to do that. Because his father had, knowing what I'm about to tell you. And that is that there's a group of people who control this issue that are trying to sort of agent provocateur, to provoke an interplanetary incident. So the next war, World War III, will be interplanetary. And if there is a serious group of nut jobs, and they have to be put on a leash and stood down fast and quickly. And the trigger, when unacknowledged, hit hundreds of millions of people seeing it. This group started releasing stuff to the CNN and Washington Post and New York Times under cover of a group that from a boy that I used to teach on this named Tom DeLong.
I got absolutely nothing out of everything he said.
5 most dangerous drugs. Number 5 is meth. And if this is news to anybody, I pity you. I mean, how can you not know that? Number 4 is cocoa.
Cocoa.
And cocoa sometimes gets a good rap, unfortunately, because it's a party time and it's a lot of rich people like to do it. And no, that doesn't make it okay because the Wolf of Wall Street did it, you know, in by the pound. Number 3 is heroin. And we all know heroin is bad. It's one of the most addictive in the world. And number 2, if you graduate from heroin, you go to the fentanyl.
Ooh.
And fentanyl sometimes is in the heroin and people don't know it and then they take too much. And unfortunately, 70% of drug-related deaths are now from fentanyl.
Ooh.
If you like this list and want more about other nonsense, follow me. Leave me a comment with the drug you thought would be the most dangerous. Also follow my wife Samantha, who I've tagged, and find me on Cameo if you want a personalized message. Number 1, this one is maybe going to shock you. With 3 million deaths a year and probably one of the most commonly consumed, it's alcohol.
You know what? I forgot who said it. Most dangerous drug is love. Ooh. What is that?
A British man is facing the death penalty after he allegedly bought a kilo of MDMA into Bali. 32-year-old Thomas Parker was arrested in January after acting suspiciously while collecting a parcel from a man on a motorbike. Thomas claimed he was a member of an international drug dealer organization in Hungary and was ordered by his boss to pick up a package in Bali after flying from Thailand. He now faces execution by firing squad under Indonesian law, which has a zero-tolerance drug policy.
Yep. I think he's being set up, but you know, when you go to someone else's house and they tell you to take your shoes off, you take your shoes off. Look at that. This is in Indonesia, folks.
Satu rumah lagi ke Pak. Allahu Akbar.
Look at this.
Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Semakin deras dan tadi ini masih jauh guys. Dan tadi juga ini masih ada bangunan. Dan di sana kalau kita bisa lihat di seberang guys. Itu di seberang ya. Itu di seberang tadi ada rumah dan sekarang hangus guys. Dan sekarang hanyut. Sekarang hanyut terbawa arus guys.
Wow.
Ya di Sukabumi, Pelabuhan Ratu. Amin, makasih doanya ya. Minta doanya aja ke semua, semoga kami semua di sini ada dalam lindungan Allah Subhanahu wa taala.
I thought it was a bit strange that as soon as I began filming, they moved out of the shot. But I tried to ignore them and stayed focused on filming the cave I'd worked so hard to reach. Yet every time I lowered the camera, they would tell me to follow them as they wanted to show me something. At this point, I did feel quite uncomfortable, but I decided to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think these guys want to show me something. All right. We going this way?
But when I finally saw what they wanted to show me, everything changed.
Wow.
It was an abandoned house, and they wanted me to go in first.
Okay, I'll follow you. After you.
And at this point, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed one of the men was moving behind me. And at that moment, my gut instinct kicked in loud and clear. Get out now.
I'm just gonna get one more shot, okay? One more shot. Oh, sorry. I'm just shooting, filming, and doing more. And then I'll come, okay?
I stayed calm, acted like I wasn't suspicious, and slowly walked back towards the entrance. But it seemed like they didn't want me to leave.
I'll come soon. I just want to shoot this. But you go, I'll stay. And then I come later. I'm just filming everything. Okay?
You look yummy,
okay.
buddy.
So I pretended to take this shot, and when I saw they were distracted, I made my move. At first, I walked at a normal pace, as off camera I had told them I'd forgotten something on the trail. But then, I heard footsteps coming after me, and that's when I ran.
Yep, this is the exact place where I was eaten. Just kidding.
This.
The rainwater touches the silica, and the silica turns to glue. Immediately, it makes everything stick together. Now, after the rain has come and gone, the sun comes out, and you feel it's kind of warm. It's going to heat things up, it's going to bake it hard. As that hardens up, this is when the wind introduces dry loose sand from other areas. It overlaps the hard surface, and the whole process eventually repeats itself. You're going to get more rain, more sun, more wind. Thousands and thousands of times developing the rocks layer by layer. In this little demonstration, we're only going to repeat this process 3 times. And that's just because we have a limited supply of water. So after this 3rd layer, let's say we get heavier, stronger winds. Heavier winds amongst the region is not going to blow sand on top. Instead, it's going to start to blow sand away. As sand's being blown away, what is left behind is the structure of your stone. So we can come through and we can actually scoop this up off the earth. Okay? Just as if we had a rock. Now that you guys know how the rocks are made, I'm going to show you guys how the canyon was made. This canyon, guys, I told you, was carved by water, flash floods that come from heavy rains. And so we're going to give an example of a flash flood. High-speed waters, tons of pressure, going to carve its way down into the rock, just like this. Now keep in mind, it was not one flood that carved this place out. It was thousands that took place over the course of thousands or maybe millions of years. We don't even know the exact age of this place. Okay? From the outside, you can't see much. All you see is this crack.
People said Grand Canyon formed during Noah's flood. Symbolism tells all.
You're effectively living in hell on earth, which is what Nagasaki was after the dropping of the bomb. People were walking around asking for water while their skin is melting off, like it's literal hell on earth. So he gave a speech to his community. He was one of the very few survivors in his community. He said, "I have heard that the atom bomb was destined for another city. Heavy clouds rendered that target impossible, and the American crew headed for the secondary target, Nagasaki. Then, a mechanical problem arose, and the bomb was dropped further north than planned and burst right above the cathedral. It was not the American crew, I believe, who chose our suburb. God's providence chose Urakami, the suburb, and carried the bomb right above our homes. Is there not a profound relationship between the annihilation of Nagasaki and the end of the war? Was not Nagasaki the chosen victim, the lamb without blemish, slain as a whole burnt offering on an altar of sacrifice, atoning for the sins of all the nations during World War II? Happy are those who weep. They shall be comforted. We must walk the way of reparation, but we can turn our mind's eyes to Jesus, carrying his cross up the hill of Calvary. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Let us be thankful that Nagasaki was chosen for the whole burnt sacrifice. Let us be thankful that through this sacrifice, peace was granted to the world and religious freedom to Japan. Well, is that not a profound perspective? That is the power of a relationship with Christ.
You know how Japan forgave America and don't talk about it till date? Needs to be studied.
Vegetarians have smaller brains. The less a human eats meat, then the smaller the brain becomes. The brain is so dependent on the nutrient density that comes from animal-sourced foods that it will suffer when it doesn't get them. It's a real thing. And why does depression go up so much when people stop eating animal-sourced foods? It's because you are depriving the brain of what it needs.
Let me know how you feel about this in the comments. I have nothing to say.
Such a thing as an ancient conspiracy theory is this.
Former fraud investigator Jimmy Corsetti, and now ancient site researcher.
You have the site of Göbekli Tepe, made up of sophisticated pillars, almost 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. We're talking about arguably the most mysterious ancient site because it's not supposed to exist. Earlier this summer, I'm like, let me revisit Göbekli Tepe and see what's new there. And I couldn't believe this. There's a gentleman who's an author and also leads tours, and he communicated with me that they're going to defer a full-scale excavation for, quote, future generations. And I'm like, wait a second. Are you serious? And so I started digging into this, and I couldn't believe what I found.
What would be an alternative explanation?
So, okay.
You know, the world has stopped all archaeology findings. They don't want the truth to be found.
So you're saying there are continents we don't know about?
Do you think there's just 7?
AI, this is AI, all right,
That's
folks.
what they told you. That's what they want you to believe. But Antarctica? It's hiding something bigger. Way bigger. Beyond Antarctica, there are lands we've never seen, civilizations that have been hidden from us. Why do you think access is so restricted? Since 1959, no country has allowed free exploration. No one. You can't just go there. You can't just walk in. That's not by accident. Behind those ice walls, there's technology beyond anything we know, resources they don't want us to have, life forms we've never been told about. And the people in power? They know it. They've been there. They've studied it. But they keep it locked away, far, far away from us. You think the world map they gave us is real? We've been lied to. They keep us trapped inside a fake world while they take everything for themselves.
This is just a theory, not a fact.
The pedophile ring that was uncovered in Jordan, Minnesota today sent shockwaves across America. And in total, over a dozen locals have been arrested so far, including local mothers and police officers. Nobody in this small town of approximately 2,700 wanted to believe that this was possible, that their neighbors next door, the friendly couple with kids of their own, could be accused of worshiping the devil during late-night rituals and mechanically molesting children. But this is the reality now of life here in Jordan, Minnesota, where over a dozen local adults have been arrested by local authorities on suspicion that they were involved in an occult-influenced pedophile ring that recruited and used local children to feed their darkest desires and sickest pleasures.
No one wants to believe that evil could potentially touch their hometown. Nobody wants to imagine a world where their friends, neighbors, and even family members could conspire together to harm children in their own backyard. But unfortunately, and tragically, these dark thoughts became an even darker reality in the town of Jordan, Minnesota, in the year 1983. To this very day, local and national authorities refuse to admit that an occult-influenced group of local adults were working with criminals in the small town of Jordan, Minnesota, to pimp out and molest children from the area. But sometimes, reality is stranger than fiction. The story of the Jordan, Minnesota child abuse ring is one of the most disturbing ever told, and it was completely covered up by the United States government. Join us today as we expose these secrets that have remained hidden for over 40 years and investigate claims of murder, child abuse, and Satanism in the small town of Jordan, Minnesota.
Ooh. People are so disgusting.
Use your energy to worry. Use your energy to believe, create, trust, grow, and heal. Focus on the good stuff. It's way more powerful than worrying. You yourself know overthinking is messing you up. Now is the time you take action and work on it.
This is true. I have trained my mind to be without worry. Let go and let God.
About the Australian couple on that flight. They were taking a flight from Melbourne, Australia to Venice, Italy. There was a lady on the flight and she went to the restroom. She came out, not sure what happened, but she ended up dying.
Oh my goodness.
And the flight attendant went to this older Australian couple and they had a seat next to them. They said, do you mind scooting over so we can put her body here?
Oh, shoot.
And so they had to fly from Melbourne, Australia to Venice, Italy with a deceased woman in a blanket over her the whole flight.
Oh my
That
goodness.
is the spookiest. What if she moved? What
Dude.
if she went?
Dude, that airplane now has one bathroom.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
what
body's staying.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
lock down one bathroom, and you know that's not like just a small flight,
big
major
plane.
flight. Yeah, so you could have like 7 or 8
Aren't there
bathrooms.
like first class seats? Well, though you have to get a ticket for that.
She didn't buy a first class ticket.
She was economy.
Listen, before everything sets in, we have some carry-on space.
Yeah.
I mean,
gosh.
let her have that.
But the wife, before this incident, she was terrified of flying.
Oh my gosh.
There's got to be a
What's
better
your-
protocol for that.
Yeah, what's your
Yeah.
thought process with
I mean,
that?
people
Can
have
you
to be dying on
scoot
planes.
over so this woman who had just passed away,
Yeah.
we can sit her right next to you?
What if they lied to her and just said she's just she fell and she's sleeping?
No,
just
they told her. The whole plane was freaking out.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a tactic because they asked her permission and she gave it.
I
They
don't
said,
know.
"Will you scoot over so we can do this?" And she affirmed, "Yes."
I mean, what would you say? Would you say no?
Yeah,
I'd be-
easily.
I mean, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
No.
flat out.
I would say yes for a voucher.
They're just living and know nothing about the outside world.
They're going to want to sit down for this one. There's a town in the middle of the Atlantic you'll never find on a map. It's called Halcyon Ridge, but it shouldn't
AI
exist.
again. This is AI.
Just imagine perfect houses, white picket fences, kids riding bikes, a snapshot from a 1950s postcard, but it's all fake. The people? Either orphans raised in complete isolation or, get this, grown in labs. From birth, they're programmed to believe a lie, that the world outside is gone, wiped out by some cataclysm. Halcyon Ridge, the last safe place on Earth. But if someone starts asking too many questions, poof. Vanguard Initiative steps in. They either fix you or you disappear. Now that makes you wonder, how many other Halcyon Ridges are out there? Stay skeptical.
This is just a theory, not a fact.
What would happen if we explored abandoned places? I believe this is in Russia. I forget exactly where. These people, they explore everywhere. They go travel across the world and look at different abandoned places. And one of the places they went to was a hospital. They're exploring it. They're looking through all these doors and windows and they're having fun. Like, oh, this is creepy. It's cool, whatever. They walk down a hallway that leads to this one room. And they notice in the room, it's a little bit different. Like, it looks as if someone's been, like, living until they go into the room and they see there's, like, a figure under a blanket. Almost somebody, like, lying down, right? Yeah. So in your head, you're probably like, oh, it's probably like someone homeless that's, like, staying there, right? Under the blanket. So they legit see a body and they start freaking out because to go into the hospitals are big. Yes, man. When they see the body and they're walking and they're freaking out, they're making a lot of noise, right? They see somebody like down the hall.
No.
Yeah. Like walking toward them.
Hello? Who? Hello? What?
Go! This is what their story is. That was probably the person that, whoever's body that is.
Whoa.
And they're just using that place to like people.
The missing Chloe had been rotting in the bathroom for 2 months before she was found. Black decomposed matter was scattered all over the bathroom, and a strong stench of decay filled the air. The cops told me that Chloe was an 18-year-old student. She had a friend who was 12 years older than her. Chloe's family strongly opposed her relationship with this guy, which led to constant squabbles at home, kind of like a never-ending soap opera in a small-town Texas household. 2 months ago, Chloe left home at the urging of her boyfriend, Ethan. She cut off all contact with her parents. Since then, no one had any idea where she was. Her family searched high and low, from the cornfields of Nebraska to the back alleys of Chicago, but they came up empty-handed. The police suspected Ethan right away and launched an investigation. They found out that in his previous relationships, he had a tendency to be overly controlling, like a drill sergeant in a military base. Meanwhile, Ethan was arrested by the police and was kept in for questioning. Poor Chloe. May you find peace and tranquility in the afterlife. Rest in peace.
Yep, rest in peace, Chloe. But you know, someone is going to run that place.
What's the creepiest story that you've ever heard? When I was younger, I used to hang out with this kid, and later on in life, we remained friends, and we would talk to one another here and there. Now, he told me this story, and it's one of the creepiest stories I've probably heard. Now, he said, you know, one day his wife sent him to the grocery store to get a couple things so she could make dinner. He got in his car. He said he drove to the grocery store. He grabbed a couple things, and then 5 minutes later, he got back in his car, drives back home. He said in total, the trip probably was, 20 minutes long. But he said when he got home, his wife started yelling at him, like, where have you been? Like, what have you been doing? And he was confused. That's when he looked at the clock and realized that he had been gone for almost 3.5 hours. And he said he had no idea, like, what he could have done in that time, because to him, just going to the store only took like 20 minutes. And he said after this, he kept having these experiences where he would have like this missing time. And he said the scariest one was one night he went to bed on a Friday night, and then he woke up in the morning to his wife saying, get it ready for church, like it's time to go to church. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's Saturday. And she said, no, it's Sunday. And he said he could recount all the events of Friday night, and like he knew it was Friday night. So somehow he couldn't account for, a whole 24 hours of time, and he had no idea what happened. So he said this one day he went over to his mom's house, and everyone's, sitting around talking and stuff. And his mom goes, hey, I found a lot of your old drawings up in the attic. And he goes, drawings? What are you talking about? And she goes, you don't remember? And he's like, no, what do you mean drawings? And she said, well, when you were a little kid, you used to say that you seen this monster in your room every night, and you would draw him and draw all these pictures of you with him. And he's like, he had no memory of this, no recollection. So he's like, let me see these pictures. So as he started to go through these pictures, he said there were these strange looking gray men with oval shaped head, big solid black eyes. And he said they looked exactly like the UFOs, the aliens that people describe in the books and movies. And he said he had no recollection of this ever happening to him as a child.
So Truman Show is real. Sounds like AI, man.
Avoid these 3 drinks because they are harming your brain. Drink number 3 is a surprise to most people because people think it is healthy for them. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Robert Love. I'm a neuroscientist, and I specialize in helping people prevent Alzheimer's disease with science. Drink number 1, there's been some debate about it historically, but there's a lot of research now showing it's not good for your brain. It is alcohol. Now, earlier research showed that alcohol may reduce heart disease. Now we know alcohol greatly impairs brain function. Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, did a great podcast on the negative benefits, the negative damaging effects of alcohol. Here's how alcohol damages the brain. Number 1, it impairs memory. Number 2, it impairs sleep. Number 3, it hurts your gut bacteria. What's good for your gut is good for your brain. And so impairing memory and just impairing sleep, both of those are really terrible for your brain. Drink number 2, this is an obvious one. It is soda. Soda is bad for the brain because it's high in sugar and there's no fiber. And so what happens is when you eat a lot of sugar and no fiber, this spikes your blood glucose, spikes your insulin. This creates inflammation. Inflammation damages the brain, damages the body, also makes you look older, and inflammation is one of the primary risk factors of Alzheimer's disease. And don't get me started on diet soda. It is even worse. Large studies out of France show that exposure to artificial sweeteners increases the risk of type 2 diabetes by 69%.
Wow.
Drink number 3, people think this is healthy for them. It is tap water. Tap water actually contains a very damaging chemical for your brain called fluoride. There are large studies out of China showing that children exposed to fluoride have lower IQs than children not exposed to fluoride. So there's some argument that water fluoridation is good for your teeth. The research shows it's not. Now, if you want fluoride, you can brush with fluoride, but please don't swallow your toothpaste. And if you have young children, please don't give them tap water. Instead, give them reverse osmosis or distilled water. And the state of Utah is currently looking at banning water fluoridation because of the negative impacts it is having on health. I love you. God bless you.
So alcohol, soda, tap water.
The cartel left a note on one of the bodies saying, "This is what you get for being a thief." I mean, this story just keeps getting crazier. So apparently one of the victims found in that car was a prominent businessman, Jose Alfredo, who was secretly a crime boss, and he was apparently the reason that those students lost their lives and their hands. Leaked WhatsApp conversations revealed that those students were in touch with that crime boss and actually worked under him to carry out a string of robberies at his direction.
What?
Local media reports say that Jose, who was a former candidate for mayor, brought those kids to that region to carry out criminal activities before things went wrong. That's when a rival group showed up to the hotel the students were staying at as police officers took them, and during all of this, one of the students called Jose for help, and that's how they got him as well. And in the car on Jose's body was a message from that group saying, "That's what you get for being a thief." And people are saying that that's the reason that their hands were all placed in a bag. Let me know what you guys think about this, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Rest in peace to all of them, but you know, what did they expect when they got involved in organized crime?
The real shit that's going viral in Japan is this man's post. He goes on there and he posts and he says, "Listen, I'm a very successful person, but that's not the point. I'm not here to flex on all the peasants. I am here to tell you that I have been scammed. I've been scammed by a woman who told me that she was going to marry me. And every single day, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on her. And she is your favorite hostess. The #1 hostess in Japan." And everyone is like, wait, the #1 hostess in Japan was engaged? Hey, Mika. She is the #1 hostess in Japan. By 2023, she's no longer a hostess. Except a few months later, February of 2024, she comes back and says, "I'm not going to be done with the club. I will actually be the official president of the club that I used to hostess at." Until a post goes viral on that Japanese forum where a man comes out and says, "Listen, I am accusing the former #1 hostess of wedding fraud, tax evasion." He says, "Whatever you think you knew about her, think again."
Wait, when was this post made?
August 2024. He says, "I was in a relationship with her. She would tell me that, yes, I will be retiring from hostessing so that I can marry you. And I have dedicated tens of millions of dollars into her." He says, "I pretty much was her biggest client. I probably was funding her to become the top hostess. She accepted my proposal to get married. She out of nowhere blocked me and ghosted me. And it's not like we were just dating. We bought a place together.
What?
You accepted a $300,000 engagement ring from Graf." He said, "I got her the butterfly diamond bracelet, the butterfly necklace, the butterfly ring. I bought all the fucking butterflies because I wanted to see her fly around me, but she flew away." There's this butterfly collection from Graf. 3 items totaling over $300,000. How are you just going to delete me online?
Do we know what he looks like?
Yeah.
How old is he?
He's old enough to be her dad. But they're both of legal age. They're both consenting. Then a lot of her fans go in and they start digging into this guy because they're like, the timeline isn't adding up. Because at this point, he's saying that they broke up around the time that she retired, which was in 2023. But this post is being made like a full year later. When you were the most upset, it would have been a year ago. So why a year later? And what is this investment firm that you run? So they start digging into him. The investment firm, it's a Ponzi scheme. And 260 something of his own investors are in a class action lawsuit against him. He's going bankrupt. 260 people give their savings to him, and they're upset that he's not giving it back like he promised. He gives those savings to Haimika and is upset that she's not giving it back, even though she never said she was going to give it back. Right. So people are saying, who's worse at this point? Probably him. I mean, she's not even scamming. She's just accepting gifts from a rich guy under the pretense that she will marry him. I don't know. Maybe she did want to marry him. But he's scamming innocent people. So all this, I spent tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have fucking done that.
I paid a woman to pretend to love me, and it turned out her love was pretend. My guy.
Malaysia shocked the whole internet. On it we see a local fisherman being dragged into the water by strange creatures, and only with the help of fire he managed to fight back. This fisherman later gave an interview where he told a lot of interesting things. He claims that these creatures resembled the legendary mermaids, only their faces were much scarier than we are used to. But the most curious thing is that just a year ago, locals in this area found a giant strange tail resembling the tail of a mermaid. And what scared us the most was its size. And recently, a group of divers decided to investigate the area further. And at first they didn't find anything until they came up with the perfect idea of attaching a GoPro to a shark's fin. And then began the strangest thing. Literally a couple of hours after the start of filming on the camera, caught a 3-meter creature that resembled a mermaid. And later their research team decided to dive there in a bathyscaphe, until at one moment, they hit the glass with a strange hand with webbing between the fingers, which terrified the whole team, and they decided to stop all research. What do you think they encountered in the deep ocean?
Okay, how they get the GoPro back? Should all be castrated.
So I made 2 mistakes when I first started taking methylene blue. The first mistake was I went in hardcore and took 10 drops straight away in water, back of the throat, down the hatch. It wasn't good. It wasn't great. I ended up feeling really nauseous, sick. It just put me off my food. I didn't feel glorious. I was expecting to feel this glorious feeling. I was like, what's going on? This isn't right. So I went back, did some more research, and found out that I went in too heavy. You need to start very slowly. So I started with 2 drops in water, and I was absolutely fine. I'm now built up to 10 drops, and it's amazing. I feel glorious, and that's all I can say on that.
Really?
The second mistake that I made was I was advised by someone to take it with a sort of something with vitamin C in. So I'd take it with a little ginger shot, which was great because the taste isn't great. So I was like, wicked, do a little ginger shot. It will hide the flavour. Everything's great. But what I'd noticed was when I didn't take the vitamin C, my urine was this like glowing blue. It was like, you know, you've taken methylene blue. And I took the vitamin C shot, there was no coloration. So I was like, what's going on here? Let me have a look at let's research what's going on with this. So I went and did some more research and found out that actually when you do take it with vitamin C, it makes the methylene blue a lot less effective. So I don't take it with vitamin C. You're just gonna have to suck it up and just have it with the nasty flavour. But the health benefits and how you feel after taking it outweighs all the negatives. I just have got so much energy. I just feel lighter. I feel happier. And I will always use it as part of my everyday routine.
Methyl blue is a chemical indicator of pH. Why are people taking this? Please do your own research before taking this.
White House GIF. I don't know if you ever heard about this.
I never heard about the White House GIF, but I heard about like GIFs,
GIFs, yeah. And I got this from a YouTuber. He's the one that first talked about it, so I want to give him his credits. Lazy Masquerade. It's very, very eerie and disturbing once you know like the backstory to everything. We already know how those scary videos, curse videos were really popular back in the day. They would pop up. We would send them to people. This one wasn't as popular, but it was mostly associated with a video called Why You Never Became a Dancer.
So that's just the whole video?
A song by a band called White House. The song or whatever had nothing to do with the image it was showing, and the identity of the woman remained unknown for like a really long time. So it wasn't until June of last year that they found out who she really was, and a lot of people thought it was fake until a Reddit user, his name was Lane Campbell 77, ended up posting on his Reddit thread that he found a book that was about a Japanese serial killer. His name was Kiyoshi Akubo. He was one of Japan's most notorious serial killers. He had killed 8 victims, one of them being that girl. And her name was Reiko Takemura. One day he had picked her up, the same thing that he did to everybody else, asked her if she wanted to be a model so he could paint. When in this car, Kiyoshi got the impression that Reiko, Kiyoshi tried to say that, let's go back to like a motel. Reiko was saying, do you really think I'm that type of girl? Later on, they ended up going through this forest road, and he tried to force himself onto her. She obviously slapped him. She tried to run away. He caught up to her, he strangled her to death. The only reason he was caught was because of Reiko's brother. He made it his mission to find Kiyoshi. There was this one night where
I did an entire video on vampires, and I feel like somebody is watching me.
and just threatening me energetically to not post it, which is why I hate talking about vampires, especially whenever I bring up the living vampires and the 9 tribes and the fact that there are vampire tribes that live in the United States. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look up some of the vampires that have been in the paper, like Mercy Brown. The problem with vampires is that they are astral predators. And that is why I don't like putting up pictures of them, because they can spiritually attack people. You don't have to necessarily be psychic. They can give anybody who they feel like threatens them astral parasites. They can come up in your dreams. They are spiritual predators. And what makes it even worse is that all vampires were made by magicians, so they don't play by the same rule book as demons and other entities.
Vampires like Twilight or energetically?
The world believes kangaroos are real, but what if they never actually existed?
What?
I analyzed millions of wildlife records and found an anomaly. Kangaroos appear in ancient mythology before any confirmed sightings. No fossils of their supposed ancestors have ever been found. In high-speed footage, kangaroo movement defies natural physics. Their legs bend in ways no other mammals do, and their ability to hop should be biomechanically impossible. Old Australian Explorer's Journal describes an animal resembling a kangaroo. Yet no historical evidence of such creatures remains. Was something altered? In the outback,
Really?
satellite scans reveal strange energy signatures around kangaroo populations. Their heat signatures flicker as if they're not entirely solid. And deep inside a government lab, a leaked AI document references Project Marsupial. The files were redacted, purposely shredded to be made unviewable to the human eye. Maybe kangaroos were never part of the natural world. Maybe they were introduced. And the real question, who or what put them here?
God put them
This
there.
1775 Bible contains information that indicates March is considered the first month of the year, and it also denotes Sunday as the initial day of the week.
And so this right here is the Bible from 1775 telling us at the time that we used to have 13 months. Vader is the 13th month.
Darth Vader.
The first month of the year is March. Look at there, table of time, Nisan or Abib, March and April. Second month is April to May. Sivan is May to June. Tammuz, look at all the way to the end, guys. 13 months. This is like everything they've done to screw up our world and to pretend that we're something different. The first day of the new year is March. We are living in sin by going to church on Sunday.
What?
Okay? Sunday is the first day of the week. The Sabbath is Saturday.
The Lord is the Sabbath. He is our rest, and it's not a sin to go to church on Sunday. This guy.
You understand that you are now communicating, for example, with information about a dead person. Do you feel it?
Yes.
Well, if someone asks you, what did Grandpa Petya, who passed away, think? Can you, for example, find out this information?
Well, ask me something about the dead, and I'll try for you. Do you want to do it right here?
Let's try.
Honestly, I'm not in a special mood right now because I just ate a lot, but I'll try. I hope I have enough energy.
He's
Go
blind.
ahead. Let's try to communicate with your great-grandmother on your mother's side. Ask her if she was happy in life.
She says she used to be, but then she stopped being happy. But I didn't understand why. I didn't ask.
Dead cannot come back and communicate with the living. Demons mimicking your relatives.
These statues you see in the old world. You see so many statues in the old world, and they almost look like a real person. And I started to think about what happens if those statues were real people who were turned to stone, and that is the statue. The technology in which existed at this time that we're talking about, during a time in which they're just throwing up buildings and doing all kinds of crazy things. What if they could just turn somebody into stone and turn them into a statue? And then they just put them out on display to show that they have the ability or that type of technology to do those things. I mean, this is where it gets crazy, because a lot of these statues you see in like Rome and you see in all these different places, they look very real. They look like real people. They're so detailed. And as people just said below, Medusa, yeah, that's what it makes me think of. Her gaze. Remember, Medusa had a gaze which could turn people to stone. So why couldn't you have a technology which, instead of using art in crafting and a 3D printer and everything else, why couldn't you do it another way? Definitely something to think about.
Because a scan would prove it, but that's never happened.
In the days before the Great Flood, when the world was steeped in wickedness, the Nephilim roamed the earth. Mighty, towering offspring of fallen angels and mortal women. They ruled with iron fists, their strength unmatched, their arrogance unchecked. Cities rose under their command. Weapons of devastating power were forged, and mankind bent beneath their will. But even the Nephilim, with all their might, feared what lurked beneath the waves. Deep in the abyss, something ancient stirred. Leviathan, a beast of chaos, a monster from the dawn of creation, awoke. Vast as the ocean itself, its eyes burned like twin suns in the black depths, its breath a storm of fire. No mortal force had ever dared challenge it, and survived. The Nephilim, in their pride, saw the sea as the last unconquered realm. If they could slay Leviathan, they would reign supreme over both land and water. And so, with hearts full of ambition and hubris, they built great warships, their hulls clad in iron, their weapons sharp with divine steel. They set sail with a singular purpose: to hunt the beast. The ocean, sensing the folly of their endeavor, turned restless. Storm clouds gathered, waves rose like mountains, but still, the Nephilim pressed on. They believed themselves gods, unshakable, and destined to rule all things. Then the deep rumbled, the waters churned, the sky darkened, and the sea itself seemed to recoil. And from the abyss, Leviathan rose. Its body, an endless coil of armored scales, reflected the flashes of lightning above. Its maw opened, revealing teeth like jagged cliffs. The Nephilim, for the first time in their existence, hesitated. Then the beast roared, a sound that shattered the sky, sent birds fleeing for miles, and struck terror into even the bravest hearts. Panic surged through the fleet, but it was too late. Leviathan struck with the fury of a god's wrath. With a single sweep of its tail, ships splintered like brittle bones. The sea became a battlefield of wreckage and flame. Fire spewed from the monster's mouth, incinerating warriors before they could scream. Swords and spears, weapons thought to be unstoppable, clanged uselessly against its hide. The Nephilim, once invincible, fell like insects in a storm. The sea ran red. Their war cries turned to shrieks of terror. Those who tried to flee found no mercy in the relentless waves. One by one, they were dragged into the abyss, swallowed by the wrath of the ocean's guardian. A handful survived, washing ashore as broken shadows of their former selves. Their arrogance had been crushed, their conquest turned to ruin. They had met something beyond their comprehension, a force that answered to no king or godling. Leviathan, victorious and untouched, sank once more beneath the waves, its work complete. It had not battled out of hatred nor vengeance, but simply to remind them there are limits to power, and there are things that must never be challenged. Then came the flood. The heavens split, and the waters rose. The Nephilim, the so-called rulers of the world, were erased from existence, their names lost to time. The earth was cleansed of their corruption, their ambition drowned in a deluge they could not escape. But Leviathan remained. It waits in the abyss, a lingering force of judgment, an echo of a forgotten world. And when the end of days comes, when the Almighty calls forth his reckoning, Leviathan will rise once more, not for war, not for conquest, but as a reminder.
I think the animation made Leviathan, look too friendly and calm.
So did anybody else end up on Rich People Eat Mermaids TikTok today? I know I do videos on news and a lot of conspiracy stuff too, but I don't really know how to react to this one. I always love watching videos of boat captains who say they saw sirens or heard mermaids out in the ocean. But I don't know if this one mixed in with the Q conspiracies of the elites eating people and stuff. And then that somehow mixed into rich people eating mermaids. Maybe some Hollywood cannibals or pescatarians. But it was just one video that popped up on my feed. But then after a while it was video after video of, I guess, maybe people talking about that one video. But now I can't seem to get off of rich people eating mermaids TikTok, which is definitely a statement I never thought I would say. But with the absolute shit show that's going on in Washington right now, I guess this is a good, change of pace from my normal content. Could definitely talk about how bad it is there. Kind of want to research this whole rich people eating mermaids conspiracy and do a little deep dive for y'all. So maybe get ready for that.
I think mermaid is code for kids. Ooh.
Well, the rich eat mermaids. Can't say I was expecting that, but can't say I'm surprised either. So for those of you who don't know, this TikToker shared a story not too long ago about a gentleman who was commissioned to go hunt some exotic fish. He would assume that when you say exotic fish, he's thinking something sailfish, swordfish, or something crazier like that. So for a couple of months, he's hunting down these exotic fish, and he's doing it for the rich and the elite out in the LA area. Then one day, he's actually invited to a special dinner party. So he thinks, okay, this is my big shot to go rub elbows with some of the important fancy people. And he goes over there and he has to sign the non-disclosure agreement, and then he has to give up his cell phone, which out of all of the Hollywood party stories that are floating around the internet, sounds pretty par for the course. He goes into this large dining room area, and there's this huge table set up with large windows set up to overlook the ocean. And at first it's just kind of finger food or what have you, but in the middle of this table there's about this large 5-foot silver tray.
Ooh.
And he's wondering what is under there. Could it be a shark? And he said it was about 5 feet long. This is probably a good time to mention that this is all alleged and there's not really a whole lot of proof behind this, but
it's a good story.
Whether or not you believe it is completely up to you. As soon as they lift up the container to this tray, everybody just stops what they're doing. They're gasping, their jaws are on the ground, and they see he can only describe it as a mermaid. And people, they're shocked, they have no idea what's going on. For the most part, there are some that are familiar with what's happening, and they dig in. They're eating this thing like it's a 6-foot sub or something, or a sushi boat. Like, the very idea of this is just mind-boggling to me. I mean, here you have a creature of myth and legend sitting right in front of you, and you're devouring it like it's an everyday occurrence. And of course, he has no idea what to make of this. He's thinking it's all fake, it's all tricks, smoke and mirrors or whatever, but his mind can't process what it is he's looking at. So he decides to just, I'm out of here, I can't handle this, and so he takes off. So he's trying to get out of the place, but of course it's huge, it's a huge mansion. And this was the part of her story that really sent chills down my spine. He opens a door because he's lost, and on the other side of this door are fish tanks, huge fish tanks with all varying sizes of mermaids.
No way.
And from what he describes, these...
Wow. I have to find that video.